This was the perfect moment for the WNBA to step forward, to seize the spotlight that had been handed to them with a golden bow, and yet they said nothing. Their silence was louder than any statement they could have crafted. It echoed across social media and across every conversation where fans had been insisting for months that the league seemed strangely hesitant to give Caitlin Clark the recognition she had already earned. The numbers were there. The attention was there. The economic impact was there. All of the people who spent the entire season shouting about the Caitlin Clark effect suddenly found themselves validated. The spike in viewership, the sold-out arenas, the merchandising booms, the social buzz that follows her every move, all of it flowed directly from one player. And while fans amplified that truth, sponsors began responding, not with hashtags or debates, but with money. Real money. Money that was quietly being redirected away from the league and toward the only person in the sport who seemed capable of moving markets on her own. Suddenly, the phrase about sponsors abandoning the league for Caitlin Clark was no longer just a dramatic headline. It became a genuine concern being whispered in closed-door meetings. While the WNBA leadership focused on parity, on spreading the spotlight around, the brands who kept the league afloat were studying charts, graphs, and engagement metrics. Those graphs all told the same unmistakable story. Caitlin Clark was the gravitational center of the entire sport. Her name triggered engagement spikes. Her games created national headlines. Her appearances at events from golf exhibitions to charity games generated more conversation than some franchises experienced in an entire season. And for sponsors, that kind of influence is not a suggestion, it is a directive. From the moment Caitlin entered the league, everything that had been predictable suddenly became disrupted. Television ratings surged. Teams that struggled to fill half of their arenas were now hosting some of the biggest crowds in franchise history whenever the Indiana Fever rolled into town. National networks shifted their priorities overnight. Clips of Caitlin lifting deep threes or threading impossible passes topped the trending charts, setting record after record. While producers realized those highlights were reaching millions far beyond traditional WNBA audiences, to a league that had spent decades trying to break into mainstream consciousness, Caitlin Clark opened the door in a single season. And rather than walking through that door, the league hesitated. Brands did not. While the WNBA hesitated to spotlight her, the sponsors were moving decisively. They requested more Fever games in prime slots. They pushed for marketing campaigns centered on Caitlin. They wanted photo rights, exclusive access, and long-term partnerships tied directly to her name. But the league resisted, stubbornly clinging to an old philosophy of forced equality that no one star should overshadow the league. That decision would soon prove to be a misstep, neither Adam Silver nor WNBA. Executives could afford what made the situation even more embarrassing for the league was the way other organizations embraced her. The LPGA gave her a platform, treated her like the draw she is, and made space for her in the spotlight. They promoted the event, showcased her personality, captured the energy surrounding her, and watched the internet explode with excitement. While the WNBA remained silent, other sports markets seized the opportunity. They understood that rising tides lift all ships, and Caitlin Clark was the rising tide. The WNBA, meanwhile, watched its tide recede. The problem grew worse every time Caitlin was on national television, and the storyline became less about her brilliance and more about whether she was being targeted. Hard fouls, cheap shots, unnecessary collisions. Instead of celebrating a generational superstar, discourse revolved around a league unable or unwilling to protect its brightest asset. Social media did not see toughness. It saw insecurity. And when fans feel that energy, brands feel it too. They saw headlines trending because Caitlin Clark had been hit again, not because she had hit another historic milestone. That was when sponsors stopped waiting for the league to evolve. They decided to evolve on their own. Suddenly, commercials began airing, where the WNBA's presence was reduced to a supporting role. While Caitlin's face dominated the screen, campaigns focused on her name rather than her team. Cross-sport events were built around her appearance, not the league's participation. Money was shifting, and it wasn't subtle. In executive rooms, presentations were now filled with projections tied specifically to Caitlin Clark, not to league performance. And Adam Silver, who has long supported the WNBA's growth, now faced a nightmare where the league's financial ecosystem was being rewritten faster than its infrastructure could handle. Inside the league office, the panic grew. Reports circulated of sponsors restructuring deals, reallocating budgets, and requesting exclusive arrangements centered solely around Caitlin. These were not isolated cases. They were trends. And trends in sponsorship usually precede seismic industry shifts. Suddenly, mid-season adjustments weren't just about travel accommodations or scheduling. They were about survival. If Caitlin Clark continued to become bigger than the league itself, what would happen if she chose to step away? What would happen if she explored other opportunities? What would happen if sponsors followed her somewhere else? Because in this new market, sponsors weren't loyal to league logos. They were loyal to engagement, visibility, and impact. Caitlin Clark delivered all three at unprecedented levels. If 4 or 5 major sponsors followed her exclusively, the league's revenue structure could collapse before the next CBA negotiation even began. The alarming truth was becoming impossible to ignore. The WNBA had benefited enormously from Caitlin Clark's presence. Yet the league had also created an environment where fans, sponsors, and even casual viewers cared more about her journey than the league itself. Meanwhile, Caitlin's commercial presence only intensified. When her State Farm commercial dropped, fans exploded with excitement. It dominated social media feeds, mainstream discussions, and reaction posts. It didn't matter that she was a rookie. She delivered her lines with the comfort of a seasoned actor, the natural charisma of a superstar, and the relatability that makes people lean forward and pay attention. Then came the Nike commercial in her new Kobe shoes, a production filled with symbolism that fans dissected frame by frame. It showcased Caitlin not just as a young talent, but as an integral part of a generational shift, and the market responded instantly. The moment her products went live, they sold out in seconds. Fan reactions flooded TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Entire comment sections filled with people declaring this the best Caitlin Clark commercial ever. Analysts began discussing her potential as the first global superstar in women's basketball, not just because of her talent, but because of her ability to move culture. Every new campaign validated that belief. That is the reality the WNBA must face. No league can survive long-term while trying to dim the light of its brightest star. No leadership group can ignore a generational talent and expect fans to pretend everything is fine. And no sponsor will invest in an organization that refuses to capitalize on the single player who is rewriting the sport. So now, as Caitlin Clark continues her rise, the question hangs heavier than ever. Will the WNBA embrace the inevitable and build around the player who is carrying the league into the mainstream? Or will they hold on to outdated strategies until sponsors walk away for good? Which Caitlin Clark commercial has become your favorite? And what brand should she team up with next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.